Welcome to the Thrive podcast with the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church.
How does your faith kind of play into it, or does it play into it?
What can be done about it? When I say the church, I'm talking about evangelical white Christians and the black folk who attend their churches.
Hello, welcome to the Thrive podcast with the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. I'm Fred Jeff Smith, pastor of Shiloh, and I'm happy that you've taken the opportunity to share with us today, either viewing this through YouTube or listening to this through iTunes and or Spotify. This is the first time in a while that we've been able to do these interviews. Obviously, all of us have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic that has struck this nation, and it has thrown our schedules out of kilter. So we had not been able to do interviews for the last couple of weeks. But I wanted to do an interview today with two people who have given tremendously of their time, their talent, and their energy to make sure that Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church continues to run with some semblance of normalcy. That has been my goal throughout this whole process, to keep some idea of normalcy going with the day-to-day activities of this church. Ministry needs to continue, and for that to happen, I need to have people around me who are willing to give of their energies and their talents in very extraordinary ways. And I'm grateful to have two of those people with me today as guests of this podcast. One, this is her first time on the podcast. One has been on before, and in fact, he's been with every one of them because he produces them. So let me introduce to you Mrs. Leslie Vincent, my administrative assistant here at Shiloh. And Leslie, thank you for taking the time to share with us today. I guess you say you ain't have no choice, huh? Because I told you we were going to do this.
That's exactly what you did, but thank you for the opportunity.
And Mr. Terrance Turner, who runs our audio-video ministry here at Shiloh and is also the creator, executive director of Mag Game Entertainment. Thank you, Terrance, for taking the time to come and share with us today.
Well, thank you. I mean, I was going to be here, and you said get in front, and so I'm here.
I want everybody to, if you're viewing this, I want you to see that we went to extraordinary steps to make sure that we are practicing social distancing. Normally, this is done in my office at my conference table, but we wanted to make sure that we were setting the proper example. So we are practicing social distancing as we are doing this. Leslie, let me start with you. What has it been like from your perspective dealing with what I said earlier, trying to keep normalcy going on throughout the life of this church as we have engaged in this pandemic?
It certainly has been a very different perspective from my seat, trying to make sure that the church stays connected with the membership, because that's critical, always, and certainly in this time, making sure that the behind-the-scenes things still happen and that we are following the rules as best we can of those that govern us. Again, here, we're doing this far apart because we want to show that we are trying to do what we are told, as well as we want to be safe. They tell us in the news, you don't know if someone is sick, and you want to keep yourself away from people, and you want to make sure if you have something and you don't know it, that you're not giving something to someone. But we have had members calling, asking what can they do, members doing things. And so it has been interesting to see the church working in this way with this heavy weight of a pandemic, and we're still trying to be the hands and feet of God. And so it's amazing to see. And Shiloh, along with other religious organizations, is doing it. and I get to see it, and it's amazing to see.
Terrance, from your point of view, you have headed the audio video ministry here at the church ever since I've been here, and that's now 7+ years. But you have been called upon to serve in that capacity in ways through this pandemic that are perhaps novel and new as opposed to things that we have done in the past. From your perspective, how has it been trying to keep things going through this ordeal?
Well, it's really made me kind of tap into levels of creativity to try to find a way to continue to engage people because they're not able to physically be here. Part of me kind of taps into my news background because if you've worked in news and you know when hurricanes strike or anything like that your schedule goes completely left.
You were saying that you've had to call upon your formal training, your news background. Elaborate a little bit more about that.
Well, anyone who's worked in news or experienced that, they know that every day it's hard to kind of make a plan for that. You and I spoke about that once before in your office where the plan can change.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be ready for it to kind of be like an article every day. You know, you might plan to do this within a week, and then the governor comes out and puts, another stipulation out, and you have to now adjust to that.
Right.
So a lot of it is just being flexible with your time and being able to adjust on the fly. We may be prepared to do the podcast today, but okay, we have to practice social distancing. So
right.
Let's make sure we have long enough mic cords or this, that, and the third. Even with services, you have to adjust with that as well. I mean, if anyone watches the TV broadcast, it looks completely different from what our live stream looks like now, because on TV you'll see choirs and people in the pews,
right.
And a lot of that it's just airing now, but it was filmed at previous dates.
Right.
Live stream, that's current, up to date. If they're watching live stream now, it may be a soloist singing. There's no full choir there.
Right.
And it's really just because we have to adjust to the times that we're living in now. This is our new normal, but what we have to do is try to make sure that we make this new normal feel as normal as the previous normal for people.
Leslie, you manage the office. You're the first voice, for the most part, that people hear when they call or come by. Describe for us what the attitudes have been of those who have called, what the demeanor has been of those who have come by through this period. Has there been anxiety? Has there been calm? How would you describe what's been going on?
I think I've heard all of it, the anxious as well as the calm, but I've heard many calm and excited. Oh, you're there. Oh, and are you okay? And so that is comforting to know that people want to still connect. And I know that Shiloh's trying to do everything we can to connect. And so today there were several calls. Oh, how are you? How's your family? All of that. And I'm asking that. And many members are reaching out to those members they know that can't get out at all or shouldn't get out, and just being able to connect. And people are so excited to hear from other members, to hear your voice. I mean, they're hearing your voice on the prayer line. I know they appreciate that. That gives them some sense of normal.
It was funny. One of the members who's known me since I was a small child, called you and said,
did.
that doesn't sound like Reverend Fred on the phone. But I said it was me, and they still had disbelief. And when I went on the prayer line that evening, I said, let me be clear, this is me. And she said, well, it was me who wasn't sure whether or not.
That's exactly right. They did. They called
I
and
haven't
they
called
said,
her name, but I found that funny that I didn't know that I had a different sounding voice on the phone.
I don't know. Maybe it's a little more bass or something. I don't know. But people are excited to hear because they can't physically connect in ways that they've done in the past. And so any kind of connection, I think they value. And we all appreciate that differently now, knowing that you can't go out and do things with those people that are your family. You're connecting in different ways. And certainly your church family, you're trying to keep that connection. I know that there are Zoom meetings. The sisterhood had a meeting this Saturday.
Right.
It was wonderful.
55 members, I was told, were on that Zoom meeting.
It was, and I have not had the pleasure of attending a sisterhood meeting before, but I had the opportunity because Gail sent me something and invited me to come, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. You could sense how much people enjoyed connecting with their church family. Although it was this way, it was a way to connect, and it was phenomenal. Mary Dudley gave some very sound advice, medical advice, because there's a lot of things that are out there that aren't true, and people are, do you stand on your head? Do you do this? Do you do that? And how do you prevent this? But she gave some very sound advice for all of us to take and say, look, this is prudent for you to do these kinds of things so that you can keep yourself healthy and keep your family healthy.
Terrance, we typically do 2 Sunday worship experiences, and we live stream. Well, we don't live stream. We record the midday Bible study on Wednesday, and then we audio record the evening Bible study to be included in our Thrive podcast. That's a typical normal week, not counting the interview that we do when we do the podcast for Mondays. But now we are live streaming or pre-recording 2 Bible studies. We're live streaming 2 worship experiences. We're also now live streaming or pre-recording, have to get my words right, pre-recording the Sunday school lesson for those who cannot gather for Sunday school and for whom Christian education is still an important thing. That's an immense addition to the normal schedule. How are you managing all of that?
Just trying to stay ahead, I guess. So if I can, I guess if I can kind of break down the process. With the pre-recording things, that is something that we film on different days, and then I take it back and I edit it and then I upload it for people to see. So we're pre-recording the Sunday school lesson. One of the Bible studies is pre-recorded for television, in addition to being live streamed during the day as well too. So with the pre-recording, that's just basically me going in, editing, putting graphics on, putting what they call the bells and whistles on.
Right.
With live streaming, of course, all that's just 100% live. So that's, making sure that we're in place and on time. So for like Sunday worships, for the 8 o'clock, we're going live at straight up 8 o'clock. It may be like 8 o'clock and maybe like 10 seconds in, but it's going to be 8 o'clock. But we do that.
That's for sure. Yeah.
So the difference in the live streaming schedule now is that, we have to give you a countdown.
Right.
Praise and worship is going on. We hit live, you come to the pulpit, and that's how it normally would start. Now,
Right.
When you start after the countdown, you welcome everyone for watching and tuning in. And it's always funny because while we're live, I'm watching the numbers constantly just go up. So it goes from like 5 people, then the next thing is like 20, and then it's 50, then it's 100.
That's good.
200. So that's the other thing that I'm monitoring more now.
And we have been gratified to see how many people have actually tuned in, viewed, and have stayed. You give me two numbers of people who passed through and numbers of people who stayed, and it's been gratifying. But sometimes I get concerned that people get too used to going to Bedside Baptist, and when this thing is over, they're not going to make their way back to the church.
They're coming back.
Yeah, and I've heard you say that, and I believe because, number one, people are going to have cabin fever.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're going to want to be around people. It's almost like, I've never been to jail, but I've been to jail.
Yeah.
Me either.
You want to, when you come back to the world, that's what they call it, because, when they're in jail, they feel like they're not in the world.
Yeah.
When you come back into the world, into the real world, you want to do everything that you took for granted when you were there. And it's funny because I'll see people on social media, they're riding bikes and, they're spending more time with loved ones, that's in the house with them.
Right.
They're not going to visit people.
Right.
But I took my dog for a walk the other day, and I'm seeing people who I've never seen in the neighborhood before, and they're like planting gardens. And
Yeah.
Right.
so they're doing anything to occupy their time now, and I believe when this is over, people, because our numbers grew a lot with live stream because people don't have anywhere else to go.
Right.
But I think when this is over, you don't have that to worry about. I think they're going to continue going to Bedside Baptist. I think they're going to be proud and happy to come back and be around people.
It's a phrase that's caught on, Bedside Baptist. I was talking to my niece after worship yesterday, and she told me, "Unc, I almost stayed at Bedside Baptist today." So it's going to become a part of the vernacular. Leslie, in addition to all the stuff that you're doing here, and we'll elaborate a little bit more on that in a second, you've been blessed that 2 of your 3 children have come home from school because of the pandemic. Schools have closed. You have 2 kids, one in undergraduate school, one in graduate school, and they have come home. What's it been like having kids back home?
It certainly is interesting. When I went on one of those grocery trips, and I got the total of the bill, I said, man, I haven't spent this much money on food in a long time. And so we're trying to cook more, and each of my children can cook. I'm waiting for them to do a little bit more of that during this visit, and I anticipated, with I hope it'll happen soon. But they're good. Both of them are in school, and so they are working. And Raymond, who is an undergraduate, has talked about how much his workload has increased since he's been home. He was like, "Mom, I don't like this. I don't like this," and I think certainly nobody likes it. And from the perspective of someone that is his age, a 20-something, what this means, or someone who's in high school or in college, what this means for them to have their schooling interrupted as it is. We do scholarships here, and we've had a communication about scholarships for those seniors. It's a very different year for them.
Right.
They were spring semester, going to do whatever they do spring semester, hang out, not do their work because they have senior fever or whatever, because that happens to some people. And they don't have that. They're at home
No prom.
with parents.
No prom. No graduation ceremonies.
Right. It's very different. Raymond has really struggled with, or at least vocally said this was quite a transition for him. He's like, Mom, I'm supposed to be in college. I'm like, you are still in college and you have to do your work, but I get you don't have that freedom.
Right.
And he has said to me that he's trying to do whatever he can so that he's not being parented. And I understand that. Because when you're in college, you're not getting that direct parent. And so Raymond is emptying the dishwasher, doing some stuff so that his mother doesn't ask him to do more. But I appreciate that. He's trying to strategically do some things.
Yeah.
So, and Camille, certainly at a graduate level, she is jumping right on it. The shift has been less of a transition that I can tell with her. she came from D.C. and she was like, oh, I'm not staying in D.C. by myself. I'm coming home. And so she's here, and the dynamics in the household is are different now, but we are trying to enjoy each other's company, and just as everybody else.
And not getting each other's way.
Absolutely. And, not hurt anybody. I wouldn't do that. But so one thing I wanted to mention, Terrance, you talked about the countdown, and I appreciate you do that. Wednesday, during noonday Bible study, somebody called and said, aren't we live streaming? And so the setup here is I'm in the office and you guys are in the sanctuary. And I thought, well, they're in there. And I looked and I said, well, it's 11:54. It hasn't started yet. And the person said, oh, okay. All right, because I was there. And so people appreciate all that is being done to reach out to them electronically. They're there and they're waiting, because I thought, well, I know they're in there. We're like, oh, okay, it hasn't started. I said, no, it hasn't started yet, but you just wait a moment, and it'll be there for you.
Yeah, people have to look at it like this with live streaming. It's just like television. So if your show comes on at noon, it's not going to start at 11:52.
Right.
It's going to
Right.
start at noon, because that's how TV works. So it's going to be the same thing with live streaming as well too. And I've gotten calls and emails from people as well too, saying that they appreciate how Shiloh continues to engage, and even people who aren't members are actually tuned. That's the biggest thing, I guess. I don't know if I want to say surprise or not for me, but there are people who are not members of Shiloh that are watching regularly everything that we're putting out. So, that's another, I guess, plus as well too. For these people who may not have been tuning in or coming to a Bible study or worship service, and they're tuned in like on the radio.
And we're getting calls in the office saying thank you from people that are not members, that are saying just that. We appreciate what you're doing. We enjoy Pastor Smith. We enjoy the message that he provides. And we've had some people call to ask Pastor questions, spiritual questions, that are not members, that you're talking to them. You're feeding them spiritually in a time that we all need it. But they're enjoying all that you're doing to stay connected spiritually.
So when this pandemic first started, the governors, the governor and the mayor were in agreement that we would constrict ourselves to 250, which we all agreed was fairly manageable. It's something that we could deal with. It's fewer than we were used to in Sunday worship, but we thought it was something we could manage. Then it went quickly from 250 to 50,
right.
and that was a little bit more problematic for us. Now it sits at 10, and for me, that has changed everything about the way that we do things. Now, that's my perspective. I want to hear from you, Terrance, as someone who has to record this and has to video it. What does it do when you went from 250 to 50 to 10?
Well, what it did was it made me thankful that I can't even take credit for it, but I kind of got ahead of things where we filmed up so much content that what you see on television will continue to look different from live streaming. So what I mean by that is what you see on TV feels like church should feel. You have people there, it's rooms full of people. Mm-hmm. But all those were filmed before the mandates happened. So we have enough content for television to kind of have that same feel to it. It does constrict you as far as filming is concerned, because there's not a lot to film. Mm-hmm. Like one of the people here, Johnny, he gets all kinds of shots.
Right.
There's nothing for him, it's basically just basic shots that he can get now, because there's not a crowd of people. If there's a singer, it's one soloist. Mm-hmm. So it's, you can get a bunch of different angles from this one person, but it's not like before. Mm-hmm. There's no crowd reaction.
Right.
There's the congregation is not there to have that energy. I know you probably feel that even more than I do, mm-hmm. because I know you have, any public speaker has to feed on the people that are in the room.
Right.
there's no one in the room.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it feels odd at times, and I've told you this even off camera, but I have to commend you that, and I guess this goes with the fact that you're always enthusiastic about what you're saying. It doesn't feel like you're talking to an empty room.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you. Leslie, this is the busiest time of the year for us. Under normal circumstances, we would have had Road to Renewal, our midday worship experiences. We would have had the Easter egg hunt for our children and youth. We would have had the Easter drama. We would have had Spring Revival. In fact, as this is being recorded, tonight would have been the first night of our Spring Revival. Then Monday, Thursday, and then, of course, Resurrection Sunday worship. With all of those things having to be canceled or modified because of this pandemic, what's your sense of how these constrictions have had an impact on what we do here at Shiloh?
It's interesting. Before the Lenten season began, the office staff, we just were talking about staying healthy, staying ready, because it's our busiest time of year with programming, and not having any idea that this would happen, that we would have these level of restrictions. On my cell phone, I still have notifications of the events happening, because I never canceled them, because I got something this morning. I'm like, what's on my calendar? And I said, oh, revival. Okay, we're not doing revival. So it is different, the busyness of the church, with the number of people that would have been in and out of the church participating in all of the activities, ceremonies, fixing dinner for revival, all of it. It's very different. On any given day now, there are 4 or 5 of us in the building totally.
Right.
And so it is very, very different. And with those few people, we're still trying to make sure we're staying connected. Phones are still ringing. People are still asking, for things, or what are you doing? What aren't you doing? People still want to know that. They still want to know how they can use the church as a resource. And we're trying to make sure that people are informed with the 4 or 5 of us that are here.
You made mention of the sisterhood meeting that took place via Zoom
Right.
On the weekend. I also know that one of our associate ministers who teaches the young adult ministry, Minister Rodney Johnson, conducted a Zoom Bible study last week. As this goes forth, because we don't know how long this
Right.
is going to last, and I guess I'm asking both of you this question, do you foresee us having to make different uses of technology than the ones that we've already made in order to continue to keep people in touch and in tune with what's going on here at Shiloh?
Absolutely.
Right.
Because we're just in that unknown land, basically, that we don't know what happens next. I think the good thing about how we're operating is we were already kind of set up for it. So we were kind of prepared. We had a good foundation as far as technology is concerned, as far as having a website that's easy to maneuver for people, having different ways where people can kind of keep in contact with the church, as far as the live stream is concerned, as far as TV, radio, this podcast. So we already kind of were set up for that. It's just now I think people are having to make more use of it, and we may even have to find different ways to do it. I brainstorm on a daily basis as to how I can continue to keep people engaged, and it's just going to kind of keep pushing where we go mentally and creatively as far as getting the word to people and keeping to engaging people.
I would agree also that we've got to continue to do things. And I would also say if the members have ideas or ways that they feel that we can continue to do this or do it in a better way, call the office, let us know.
Right.
We're trying to make sure that the website is up to date with things. got staff working from home that's trying to make sure, again, that's up to date, so that when people go there, they know that this is how you can connect with live stream. This is how, if you want to give, you can give in these different ways. If you want to be part of the prayer line, this is, we made some changes with that. This is the new number. This is how you're connected with the prayer line. So we're trying to make sure that we're giving information so that people can stay connected, because we know that that's important, that they are part of and feel part of our community, because they are our family.
Yeah. Yeah, and you made mention of the giving aspect. Let me take a moment to thank the members of the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church who are viewing this or listening to this, because you have truly shown yourselves to be consistent in your stewardship in what I like to call extravagant generosity. Clearly, you all have the understanding that for ministry to take place, financial support has to be consistent. And up to this point, all I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you. You have made it possible for us to continue to operate pretty much on the same level that we have been. And I'm so grateful for that support, and I pray that it continues on into the future. I'm here on a Monday, which is something that I don't typically do. Right. My whole schedule has been changed. When I started getting dressed this morning, my wife said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to the church." She said, "It's Monday." I said, "It's not a normal Monday. These days, Monday is not what Monday used to be." Right. Tell me how, and I guess you've shared some of it. How have your schedules changed, not just with regard to the church, but with regard to your lives? How has your schedule changed through this pandemic?
So work is different with less people here, and it's funny because people have said, "Why are you going to work?" And I thought, there's stuff to do. They're absolutely in making sure that ministry is getting done. There's got to be someone that's here that's kind of saying we can go left or we can go right or we can do this. And so that's important. It's important for people to stay connected spiritually always, but in this time when there's a lot of fear, you've got to be able to stand on your faith. So I've tried to modify my schedule here, because sometimes I'm here a lot. And some days they're 7-day-a-week days for me. And so I am trying to be very mindful of, I have to work smart. And so I'm here during the day, Monday through Friday. And I am part of the Bedside Baptist watching online. Can I get an amen? I'm just kidding. Amen. So I am doing that, and so that's very different for me to watch. And so when I'm watching, I'm also working, because there are times that I'm texting or emailing Terrance during the broadcast, knowing that he's doing that live work. But I'm also saying, "Hey, can we do this or can we do that?" Because people have sent things to me, during a broadcast, and I try to filter through some of that, because some of that Terrance doesn't need to get. I'm happy to serve as a buffer, and then afterwards say, "Hey, can we do this better, or can we change this a little bit?" And then if I come to work, I try to remember, go home. Don't stop. Just because you're out doesn't mean that you should stop, because I shouldn't be interfacing with people that often. So I go home, and then just like most people, when you come in from the outside, you need to take off whatever was outside and go to the shower. Wash your hands, go to the shower. And so it is that. And so I'm sure next time I go to the store, there'll be the detergent, because we're washing clothes so often. But it's a different kind of a setup, and so I am trying to be mindful of spending time with my children that are here, because they're not we didn't think I didn't think they were going to be here during this time, and so I say there's something that I'm supposed to learn or they're supposed to learn. We're supposed to give and take from each other, and so I treat it as a valuable time to be able to spend extra time with them on a day-to-day basis. That part is a gift.
I concur as well in just the process of coming back into your home after you've been out. I had to, like, even when I'm in the office, like, I have a humidifier now to make sure that the air is being cleaned. And, you know, of course, you know, you observe washing your hands just throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've already washed my hands, but it's like now I feel like I'm really washing my hands.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
You know, just so mindful of everything now. Coming back in and, you know, like Leslie was saying, you know, take all your clothes off, get right in the shower.
Right.
When I came home yesterday from church, this was a Monday, so Sunday. That's the other thing. Keeping up with
Sure. It's hard. It's a challenge.
It's hard because I had people who called me throughout the day, and I'm like, they're like, hey, what you doing? I'm still working.
Yes.
What are you doing? I'm at home. Well, yeah, you are, but I'm still moving around. So for me, it's like, I almost feel like everyone else is like away somewhere, and I'm still kind of like walking around like what was the Will Smith movie, A I Am Legend?
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like I'm like the only person on earth because when you leave out, I mean, like it's just deserted. When I was coming here Sunday morning, zero traffic.
Yeah,
There's
there was.
out there. Like I got in like 10 minutes.
And there is nothing stranger than pulling up on this parking lot 20 minutes before worship is supposed to start, and there's not a car out there. The first thing my mind says is, where is it? and then it kicks in. They're not supposed to be here, but it is a strange feeling that you can move about. Leaving here in the afternoons. Often I have to take a different route because the interstate is backed up. Not anymore. I have no problems getting home or getting back and forth anywhere I have to go. Let me ask you this question. Are you scared?
I'm not. I try to pay attention to what I'm doing because I'm trying to be responsible. I'm not scared. I get and I understand that even being responsible, because many of the people that are sick now were responsible,
right?
And they still got the virus. So I'm not naive thinking that I can't get it. I'm trying to pay attention to the signs, symptoms, all of that, because it makes a difference. If there's only a few of us here, and if somebody gets sick, you need to pay attention. So
national media is, and God bless them, they're having a hard time doing their job dealing with the president that we have right now and sifting through all of his foolishness. But one of the distressing things about the national media reports that I have seen is that they give the appearance, no one has said it outright, but they give the appearance that if you contract this virus, it's a death sentence. And it's not.
No, the percentages show that it's not. If you know numbers, you say, I don't know if it's a 2%, I can't remember what it is, but it's not large. A large percentage that die from the virus.
And most people bounce right back. The people
right.
I understand that have unfortunately passed from it, they all had some type of underlying health issue. For the most part, I mean, I'm not saying that it's even pleasant. People who I actually know someone who actually contracted it. They went to college with me. But they say it's not pleasant at all. It doesn't feel good. It's not like it's fine. But about a week or two into it, it clears up and you're kind of back to normal. And I don't think the media does a great job of sharing the recovery stories.
Right.
It does feel like Armageddon if you watch news, but don't watch news all day. If you watch news all day,
it's rough.
You be in fear of your life. You go around with a hazmat suit on. And just say, And I don't believe that they do share it, but I do take it serious. As Leslie was saying too, I'm not afraid. And again, part of me is not afraid because it goes back to my news background where I've filmed in hurricanes before. So I got a different tolerance for things. But I do think that the news should promote more of the recovery. But when you're dealing with 24-hour news cycles and they just have to fill time,
Right.
it's just always, this is going on, this is going on, it's shut down, it's shut down. So I understand why they're doing it, but they should feel some obligation to kind of share more recovery stories.
Yeah.
I think you can't watch the news all the time. I think it can put you in a state of just panic or whatever. And when I talk to people, they've said that. They're like, I'm glued to the TV, and I thought, well, why? Because it's not like you're getting a whole lot of really new information every hour. It is, I mean, there are some updates that come, but that kind of news can be overwhelming, draining. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then you're wired.
And that's the last thing, that's the other thing too, you know, if you have a strong immune system, that's one of the best things that you can have in this time right now.
Right.
Because even if you do unfortunately contract it, if your immune system is strong enough, you can get through it.
Right.
Right.
But if you're worried and if you're watching the news 24 hours a day, worry decreases your immune system's effectiveness. And I'm not a doctor, but these are things that I read up on. So
Yeah.
I want to come across like I'm a specialist, you know, like someone who knows.
Oh,
wonder who
okay. I
you
know
be
that
talking
person.
Someone we know who's on the news side who brags about his rating, but this is something that I have, you know, kind of studied up on as well too, is that having a strong immune system is a great defense as well too. So I would encourage people not to worry, take it seriously, you know, be aware. But if you spend all day worrying, that's going to help you get the virus and not, you know, come out with a happy ending.
Right. I think that people have to take good personal care. I mean, you've got to have some relaxation time. They tell us we need to be moving. And if you can't get outside, there are exercises you can do from a chair. All of that is important in this time. We should be doing it anyway, but we really want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. I must say on social media, they've got a ton of memes and jokes and funny things.
Yes.
Certainly my children have shown me more things that I'm thinking, who has time for this? And I'm thinking, a lot of America does.
Yeah.
So although I'm going to work, and we are going to work most days, many people have a different kind of a schedule now. And I get working from home is also it's a challenge. If you've got children at home or other people that you're taking care of at home and you're trying to take care of work, it's different. It's very different. But we all have to be mindful of self-care and take care of things.
I'm amused at the parents of elementary school age
absolutely.
children having to teach their children,
Right.
having to hone them in on the whole process of homeschooling. They are going absolutely bonkers.
They are. I think teachers are getting a lot of good press, and
Yes.
that parents are appreciating
New appreciation for them.
for teachers.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
I saw a meme the other day, and the meme was like, so have you figured out that the teacher wasn't lying about your child?
Yeah.
Maybe the teacher was telling the truth.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
So,
right.
coming out of this, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we will be coming out of this, and we will be going back to a more normal schedule. Is there anything that you think we have learned as we have gone through this that we can carry with us on the other side of this pandemic?
I think people probably have gained a greater appreciation of just the simple things like coming to church,
Yeah.
going to a grocery store,
Yeah.
having available toilet tissue inside the grocery store. I think that's the main thing, or at least that's what I'll take from this, is just a great appreciation of just things that you may take for granted on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
It's like the person who, you know, doesn't appreciate walking around until they meet the person with legs.
Yeah.
Oh, I really appreciate having legs now.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Leslie?
I've been thinking about what does this look like on the other side. I agree with the things that Terrance has mentioned. I wonder if how how fearful people will be when they have the opportunity to come outside. How long will people be scared? And I don't know if we'll go to 50, a gathering of 50 to 250 to whatever. I don't know.
Right.
And it's certainly when you have the opportunity, one day we'll walk out and you'll be able to go wherever you want, and you might stop and say, whoa, this is great, because, there was a time that I couldn't do this, that you just go to the store or you just go to dinner with friends. Who knew that it could be taken away, and you will appreciate many things on the other side of this. Helping others, what you do to help others, if it's telephone calls, if it's, whatever you do, I think that's something else that you always have to be mindful of. And then on the other side, you might say, you know what, I'm going to do a better job of whatever it is that has been laid on your heart to do. We've talked about a little bit ministry work. Shiloh does a phenomenal job with being the hands and feet of God. It is so amazing to see. This is second Saturday, and if you know Shiloh's schedule, second Saturday is when we feed the homeless. And the brotherhood and the sisterhood, that group of people that do that, have figured out a way to do that again this Saturday.
In spite of.
They're going to adhere to the rules, and when they did it last month, it was a little tricky. They had to do things a little differently. It's even more restrictions now, and they figured out a way, and they're like, oh no, we're doing it. We're absolutely doing it.
Yeah.
Their thought is, why wouldn't we do it? We know the rules. We're going to follow the rules, and we're going to make sure this population is not forgotten. How do you continue to give to others in the pandemic and after? It should be a part of all of our lives. And again, you have to rethink things. Is it calling somebody on the sick and shut-in list? Those calls right now mean so much. There are a couple of more seasoned women in the congregation that I've reached out to, and they were like, hey, I'm so glad you thought about me. And they were on my heart, and I just thought, call them, because I know that they shouldn't be going out. And it makes a huge difference when you do that. That small thing made a big difference, well, to me and to them, because when you do something, many times you receive a blessing for doing that kind of thing. So we'll ease into this post-pandemic world. I hope people will be in a mindset of appreciative of those things that were taken away that they now have, and how they can make a difference in their world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think on the other side of this, I have come away with a greater appreciation for the membership of this church. I was raised in this church. Shiloh was in my blood. I've been here most of my life. I have served other churches, but the opportunity to come back home and to see how Shiloh rallies around not just one another, but rallies around their communities, yeah, and rallies around the whole idea of ministry. Every time I am tempted to complain about something that I think should have gone one way and it went another, I hope on the back end of this I'll remember how phenomenally blessed I am to be able to serve the members of the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, and what a wonderful group of people we have here. This might not have been a full-length podcast, but I just wanted to have the opportunity to talk to people who are on the front lines of what it is that we're doing. I want to thank Terrance Turner and his crew. Two of them are behind the scenes right now as we are working. These are people who have their own families, have their own responsibilities, and yet they have come and given of their time to do this. I want to thank Terrance and his crew for the work that they do. I want to thank the music ministry of Shiloh that has done an outstanding job. They have been constrained by the numbers, and yet they have delivered first-class, inspiring music. I want to thank them for that. I want to thank those members who come on to the prayer line every day. We're now up into the 70 number every afternoon of people who gather for prayer. It doesn't take long, 5-10 minutes, and we're in and we're out. But it means so much just to hear voices and to hear the cheer that they have for one another as they recognize familiar voices on the prayer line. And Leslie, I want to thank you, and I want to thank your staff for being here every day. Every day. You are a constant, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you all for viewing. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next time.